Today we'll learn little about functions is a major topic, but we just would like to know little about it for the current purpose of the current scope. Imagine that we wrote some code for a task, and the code is like 50 lines of code, and the task is a bit common. So there is another team in the company who needed the same task. Someone again repeated my 50 lines of code to write the task. In another company again, someone wrote the same 50 lines of code. So it's a very time waste to keep repeating yourself, and your team members, to do some common task. Here where the function come to the scene. In a function we write the code once and then everyone is just using it, we call it. Very popular for that is the print function. We used to use the print function to print something to the screen. There is a lot of logic behind the scene for how the print function is doing that. But neither you nor other guys should be doing this logic by themselves. The Python provides us with something like the print, which has something like syntax that accepts a string or an integer, or even accepting multiple arguments like that. So the Python are doing a great effort to provide you with all of this flexibility in printing things. Now there is a new concept here, the return. The function can return something. This means that when the function is done with the computations or whatever purpose, is returning some message for you about it. The print function returns nothing for you, but sometimes it returns something. For example, the Python defines a function that is called min, and it takes, for example, two integers. It returns something, which is the result of that. The min function will compute which value is the minimum and return it. The syntax that we use the function is as following: answer equal min of 6 and 3. So looking to the right expression here, it's min 6 and 3, which is going to be value 3. The value 3 will be computed and returned to be put here. So this line is as equal as answer equal 3. Let's see some coding for that. I can say here answer equal min of 3 and 6. Min is a function accepting here two arguments and returning the answer, which will be 3. I can even call it with more arguments as I would like. I can say min of 3, 6 minus 2, which would be minus 2, or 9, 6 minus 2, 15. Here is the max function, which is the opposite. It returns the maximum of them, which would be 15. So when you see something like the min with these two parentheses, it means it's going to call some common code, give it these two parameters, compute something, return the results for you, and put it here in the object. Even things can be more nested. For example, I can say print of max of 4 and 7. So what's happening here behind the scene? The max of 4 and 7 will be solved first. So max of 4 and 7, it's going to call the max function to return a 7. Now it becomes print 7. Here it's going to be print 7 plus 2, which is 9. There is also an interesting function called the type. So let's define some variable age which has a value of 1 million value. As you see, I put here underscores to make it easily readable. This is allowed in Python. Now if I try to say type of 15 or type of age, the type is a function that takes some variable or a value to tell you the data type of it. So the type of 15 is class int. The type of age is int. Type of 20.5 is float, but the type of message 25 is str. You see here the word class. This is relevant to object-oriented programming. We will come back to that later. Another interesting function is the len function, which can be applied on strings. Let's say we have a string Mustafa. If you call the function len of str, it's going to return the length of it, which is 7 digits here, 7 letters here. So you can print the str length, which is 7, or you can make nested call. You can say print of len of str. So len str will be solved first with value 7 and return it here. Now a very common mistake that gives beginners a very hard time. Someone did the following: len equal len of str. So far so good. This is going to work normally. The len would be 7. The problem here is, similar in the dynamic typing, we cannot change the function name to be a variable name. Now this function name is going to be lost, and len is going to be a variable name here. Now the dynamic typing is going to give us hard time. If you try to call again len of str, this will fail, because len is now a variable that has a value of 7. It isn't a function anymore. The advice is don't use variable name same as some function. So we know now about the function len, about the function max, the function min, the function type. If you use some variable equal to this function named, you cannot call the function again. Another interesting topic is the conversions. There are functions like int and float and str that help us to convert something. For example, let's say we have a message str which has a string value of 10, but I would like the value 10 to maybe increment it or so with like a plus something. You can call the function int of a string, which is going to return an integer value, or float of a string, which is going to return a float value. So here if you try to print the message str and its type, it will be 10 and class str, but the x int will be integer and the x float will be float. In a very similar way, if you have a float variable and you would like to convert to integer, you can say int of the variable or str of the variable. Observe, if I try to print my float will be 20.7, but if I try to print my int, it will be only 20. So we lost the value here of 0.7. Why? Because the integer data type doesn't keep the fractional part, it just get rid of it. One more time, do not use a function name like int or str or len or min or max. It's going to make your life harder. That's all.